Hello, Mike Kako. Welcome to a new episode of What School You Went, where we start every conversation with that question because, well, that's usually what we do here in Hawaii. I'm Ron Mizutani, and today we're talking about lava sledding on the slopes of Hualalai Volcano. I welcome my longtime friend, waterman Tom Pohaku Stone to this conversation. Pohaku is a cultural practitioner, a lifelong surfer, and just one of the craziest guys I know. Welcome to the program, brother.
Hey, mahalo, bro.
Thanks
Long time
being
no
here.
see, right?
Long time no see, about
Yeah.
maybe 45 pounds ago for me. You look in top shape, though.
Been working at it,
Yeah.
With my 15-year-old son, he keeps me moving all the time. Dad, let's go surf, let's do that, whatever.
So I got to ask, and be truthful. What school you went?
Well, for sure, School of Hard Knocks, really. But when I decided to finally get a GED, the only place I could get it from was McKinley High School at the time. And so that's what I did in 1993, so I could go to college and get, my education from there.
Good for you. So at the age of 28.
I wish.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I know a lot of folks who went to the School of Hard Knocks, and it's because they had to. You took me out to the slopes of Hualalai and the Big Island and gave me a quick education on building one of these incredible, because there's not much history of that part, right?
Correct.
I mean, you have to do you did a lot of deep research before you created your first sled, if you will, and then you took me out there and we actually did it.
That was good fun, yeah.
One of the scariest things I've ever done in my life to this day. Maybe you can describe and try to be descriptive because podcast world, what that sled looks like. How fast are we going? And what terrain can you take this sled on?
Well, I mean, when people have asked about the whole, it's a pretty complex apparatus or traditional implement, and it's made all from wood, lashed together. And there's no glues, and our lashing, you wrote it. I mean, made the lashings from coconut fibers, and it's made from kauila. That's the one you wrote, which is unusual today because you can't find that wood very much. And then, but the areas that we slide on traditionally was almost like a ski jump, right? Minus the jump at the end, but it was basically made from the surrounding lava, material or rock around there, piled up into a nice platform finished with ash and then with a sprinkle of, grass. It could be
Sprinkle.
Yes, I mean really because it runs better on a little bit of material on top of it. The sled runs better on the rock. It's faster, and what we don't have is those old sliding areas, but what we do have is the big open pasture lands of the Big Island, and that's where we use that and you can if you groom it and you go and look for big stones in the fields and make sure you're not going to hit one, then you're good to go. And our average speed, right, when we were riding, our speed averaged between 20 and 40 miles an hour, but we know for a fact that we've gone approximately 80 miles an hour already.
That's
so
insane.
Yeah, it's
death-defying.
It is.
It is.
It is.
Literally, okay, so for those at home are trying to visualize what this looks like, or, it's very narrow. You're not on a real, it's not like a bobsled.
6 inches max.
6 inches.
That's the width.
And
right?
I used to work out back in the day, so my chest could barely fit. But, clinging on to life, and, there's no brakes. You can use your legs.
Yes,
But if
you
you're
use your
hitting
toes or whatever.
And this, you're all in once you launch, and you're so close to the ground. Maybe you can describe what that looks like at 30, 40, 80 miles an hour.
Well, you figure you're on something that's 6 inches wide, 2 runners, an open platform on the top for you to hold on to, and you're approximately 4 inches off the ground. So everything looks like just water going by. You just don't see anything except the bottom, and you're totally focused on the bottom of the hill because if you don't make the bottom, as you know,
Yes, I do.
it's a slide on your face or whatever it might be. But you know, it's just it's a commitment. Once you commit to it, there's no going back.
There's no going back.
There isn't.
Unless you learn, and learning how to fall is important. And some of you better skilled stand on it.
Yes, I mean, we do, but it just depends on terrain because everybody wants to stand on it no matter where we are. But the injuries that come from that, if you make a mistake, is not good. It's pretty much you're going to the hospital or something like
Well,
that.
that particular day, Lance Okano, one of the greatest longboarders I know,
Yep.
professional surfer for many, many years, he decided he's feeling pretty good about that day. And after a few going prone, he said, I'm going to stand. And he got
Yes.
launched,
Yep.
and split his chin open.
Yep, and we super glued it later.
Why? Why do this? And what did? Because this is like King Kamehameha used to do stuff.
Yes, he was
Like this,
trained
yes.
in the art of sliding.
What
surfing.
was the fascination? Was it sport? Was it?
Well, I mean, it was a connection to my ohana, and I just chose to focus on that. But as I got to know it better, I realized there was a commitment there to bring back the knowledge that had been so lost, and being that it was so significant to our cultural way of life, I focused on my commitment to, our way of life, and I realized who I was and why I was here, and my name and everything, prior to my mother passing away, and it was
Is your calling, Pohaku?
it definitely is my calling, and it's I made a commitment to our native community that I would never let it go, and I'd pass it on, and that's why my youngest son is hanging out with me. Right?
That's what a gift, and it is important to perpetuate and that part of our culture that oftentimes gets lost, not in just orally, but also in written.
So much was
lose that.
lost.
So much is lost, and I'm not glad. I'm grateful rather that you had your calling and you responded.
Holua, unbeknownst to a lot of people, is really a Pele practice, and Pele is the goddess of the volcano, and that's how we believe. And so more than just her, it's a practice that was focused on the mana and ability of the women, and it's the women that were actually doing it more than men, based on records that I have found, looking at architectural sites that remain and remnants of them, and they're all come with female names, and so it's that makes it even more interesting to me, and hopefully to the generations to come.
But when you surf professionally, and you were a goofy foot back in the day, right?
I still am.
You still are a goofy foot. Once a goofy, always a goofy. But
That's
that's
right.
another story. People may not remember all the details of you had a historic. I mean, when I first met you, Pohaku, you crossed the channel in all kinds of different vessels. You windsurfed. You did all kinds of crazy things. But in your mind, this was all part of your journey.
Yes,
that led you to this moment.
Of course, it was nothing. But there was nothing going on except that I had to complete all these questions in my own mind. Right, I had to answer those questions. Like paddling across the Kaiwi Channel on my wood board. That was really crazy.
Yeah. Well, paddling to Kauai is pretty crazy too.
Oh yeah, that was the easy one.
I mean, this guy's paddled every channel you can imagine, and Lord knows the Kaiwi is one of the most unpredictable channels from
it
Molokai
is.
to Oahu.
There's more current going on in there than people know. It's crazy.
Yeah, I great memories of
But
that
I
channel.
love it.
Scary,
Love
but
it.
it's a part of who we are today. I want to go back to lava sledding because, again, I want folks at home to understand how exhilarating this is, but how culturally important it is. And it's a part of your life. And people now, I mean, you teaching besides your son, Kavika, you're teaching others who want to learn, and there are people who want to learn, not just for the thrill of it, because there's an immense thrill, but they want to learn.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to learn, but it's carrying it on. Learning is one thing. Maintaining that finger workout and your body workout, building them, is a whole different thing. And what I find is a lot of individuals that we have taught prior, especially under Uncle Eddie Kanahele and his leadership in the mid-'90s, is that people just don't want to stick to the traditions. And yes, there's easier ways of making it. We can go to, machinery and just do it all. But in the end, it's the knowledge of putting it together properly. If you don't put it together properly, you're going to kill yourself, or you're gonna injure yourself, or something like that.
So in other words, Puako, I trusted you.
Yes,
I trusted
you
you that day. That was constructed with a lot of just you in it, and I felt that, and I felt that trust of commitment once you said go.
Yeah,
you remember I was frightened. I didn't want to go. I bailed a couple times. I think after like the first 10 feet.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens, but that's the most trustworthy papaholua or sled that I have, because it'll be 30 years old in 2 years.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for mahalo for allowing me to ride it.
Oh, I'm glad you went.
Oh, we talk about all the slogans. Eddie would go and blah blah blah. Eddie, of course, was iconic. Iconic.
You're part of the team, right? Men who ride mountains. Truly mountains.
Hey, that's what Brother is saying about, right?
Yeah.
The men who ride mountains. And that one I rode that day, and I'll never forget, one of the best days of my life.
Good.
And I'm so grateful that that you convinced me to go. I would have regretted that for the rest of my life had I not finally just said, "Oh, the heck with it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, people who get the opportunity to slide, because it took a little while for me to convince Kaviks, my son, to actually go down this hill, this area we constructed at Kualoa, because there was no slide there, so we just made it, and it's not a small slide. It's pretty damn steep, and he finally went and pushed it probably about 40 plus maybe.
Unreal. So now, okay, one more question, and we'll wrap this up. But
okay.
So, what if somebody says, "Oh, I'd like to try"? How do they? Not so much just fly to Hualalai or Kualoa Ranch and find a hill. It's not like going down a what do you call that? The cardboard boxes that we did as children. But do they call you?
People reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram. All the social media stuff, and sometimes I get emails, because it's not like I'm not. It's not out there. People can contact me anytime, but I usually look at the requests that they have, and if I can make it, I can make it. If not, I'm sorry. But, because I've had people, before COVID, I had families, coming to visit Hawaii that wanted to do all this stuff, and I told them I couldn't. I'm going to be in Belgium, so I'm sorry.
So thank you for allowing me to ride your sled. But also thank you for allowing me to do it in blue jeans, because I know you do it in your malo. And
hey, we all have our ways,
right? You gotta have to deal with the road rash, and I had a few scrapes and bruises that day, but it was everything else was intact, and I appreciate that opportunity. And I really appreciate you coming down here.
No
and
problem.
Your story about this.
Thanks
very important.
Thanks for the interest again.
This is important. I really do believe that.
It is important.
I want to thank you also for listening to your calling. And delivering. That's kuleana. That's responsibility too.
As long as I can,
right.
I'll keep going, and hopefully, my children will stand up and take over. Right.
Your legacy is sitting right there.
He better be.
Or you're gonna get hard knocks. All right, Waka, good to see you. Take it easy.
Bro.
Thank you, Mahalo nui. Mahalo nui for joining us. We ask you to tune in next week for another episode of What School You Went. Until next time.
What School You Went is a PBS Hawaii production. Music by Taimane Gardner. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and tell your friends. You can find us on pbshawaii.org and everywhere you get your podcasts.